Hello everyone, let's read the book of Isaiah chapter 52 together. See, my servant. Which servant is it talking about? It's the same servant prophesied by the book of Isaiah in chapter 42 and chapter 49. So my servant will act wisely and prosper. So this is talking about the latter end of Allah's or Yahweh's promised messenger servant of the covenant. This is the latter end of his career. And you can see he will act wisely and prosper. He will be raised and lifted up and highly exalted. Just as there were many who were appalled at him. So initially people hate him. People reject him. People don't like him. His appearance was disfigured beyond that of any man, and his form marred beyond human likeness. So the events that happened to his life, this is towards the latter end. He's very old at this point, and God knows how many times the disbelievers at this stage have attempted to murder him, to kill him, to poison him. I have no idea of what happens to him during this journey. So it says, so he will sprinkle many nations, and kings will shut their mouths because of him. For what they were not told, they will see. What they have not heard, they will understand. Then we go to Isaiah 53, and we have a big prophecy. So who has believed our message? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? So this is huge. It's basically saying that our Creator, Yahweh or Allah, will reveal his arm. When you reveal your arm, it means it will show, it will demonstrate a big demonstration of power, of glory, of military intervention in the world. But how is this power demonstrated? How is this intervention happen? Then you have to read verse number 2, and verse number 2 starts giving us some history about the promised messenger servant of the covenant. Who is he? He grew up before him like a tender shoot and like a root out of dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us. Nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. So that tells you that the promised messenger servant of the covenant is a completely normal person. And he actually is very weak individual initially in his life. And he has no royalty or majesty or nothing special about him that people would get attracted to him. The next verse tells us that it's quite the opposite. He was despised. Who was despised? The promised messenger servant, and rejected by men. So mankind will despise him. They reject him. They're like, oh my goodness, we are having such a good life. We have our movies. We have our pleasures. We have all those good things that we are enjoying. Who cares about these things that this guy is talking about? He wants to change the current world order that we have established already. This man is a crazy, mad, insane individual. And so they reject him. And then the verse goes on and tells us more about him. It says, a man of sorrows and pain. And familiar with, actually this verse means knowledgeable about, familiar with, knowledgeable about. It means he's knowledgeable about diseases or sickness. So there's two ways to interpret this verse. One way is that he actually will have some diseases at some point in his life, some very difficult disease or sickness in his life. The other way to interpret this is that he's actually an expert in diseases and very knowledgeable about them. You could interpret this verse in both ways, probably both, and we'll come back in other verses that actually our Creator tells us more about that. Then it goes on to say, like one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised and we esteemed him not. So basically, that's how badly people are going to hate him. It's like one from whom men hide their faces. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. He's going to be totally rejected, completely despised by majority of the world. Surely he took up our diseases or our sicknesses and carried our sorrows and pain, yet we considered him stricken by God. So basically, something happens in his life, some sort of a disease befalls him, and people say that this is a punishment because of his lies, because of what he's attributing to God, because he claims he's a messenger. Now God is punishing him. And the fact that it says it carried our sorrows and pain, it shows, it demonstrates that how much he cares about his fellow human beings, how much he cares about their suffering. But people consider him stricken by God, smitten by him, and afflicted. He was dishonored and profaned for our transgressions, because people are so bad in his day and age. They reject him, they despise him, they dishonor him, they profane him, they spread all kind of lies and profanity about him. Everything he has done in his life, all his private life will come to light. So he will be profaned, he will be dishonored, he will be humbled for our iniquities. Even though it's the people that are sins, through the guilt, through the trespasses of the people, he will be humbled. The discipline, the instruction that brought us peace, everlasting peace, the wars will stop, is on his shoulder, is a responsibility that has been laid on him by our Creator. And by his blows we are healed. And as he suffers, as the suffering messenger servant of the Lord goes through his journey, goes through his labor that he will have to do, people and mankind gradually heal. They come out of this satanic trance that they have been for the past several hundred years. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to his way. And this is true of majority of the world, and particularly of the Muslim community in the world. Just like sheep, they have gone astray. Each has turned to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him, on his servant, the iniquity of us all. So what does that mean? In the old days, if you look at the Old Testament, if you look at the Torah, you see that the priest had to atone for the community of the believers, the high priest of his time. It means that the messenger servant of the covenant will technically be a high priest. He's a priestly character that will atone for the sins of the community of the believers. Verses number 7, 8, and 9 tells us a lot about his beginning, at the beginning, and also which country he will start his mission in. Let's read together. He was oppressed and humbled. He was pressured and humbled, yet he did not open his mouth. Why did he not? He's not talking. This is talking about a certain specific situation when he's actually fasting. He's not opening his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. So what is happening here? So it's just a question. Something is happening. They want to kill him, but he's not talking. He's not defending himself. You have to read the next verse and you're going to understand that. From prison and by judgment, means by judicial decree, he was taken away. So he's in this country, wherever it is, and because of his message, because of what he's saying, they're going to imprison him. They're going to put him in prison. And then there's going to be a court, and they're going to issue a judicial decree about him. So let's read together. from prison. So when he's going to be put in prison, and by judgment, by a judicial decree, he was taken away. So they take him away, they put him in prison. And then it says, who can speak of his descendants? For he was decreed out of the land of living. It means they gave him the death penalty, that he has to be put to death for the transgression of my people, to whom the stroke was due. Most probably, I will tell you, 99.9%, I'm sure this is going to be a practicing Muslim country that does this kind of judicial decree. There are only 2 or 3 countries in the world that act this way. For example, you can go right now in the United States or in England or in France, you can go preach whatever you want. Nobody's going to listen to you, but nobody is going to put you in prison. So if this happens in our day and age, we can narrow this country when Allah's messenger will start his mission. And this country actually will be punished severely. For whom the stroke was due. It means that Allah, Yahweh, our creator, will hit this country really hard and destroy it, just like what he did to the people of Lot, or to the people of Thamud, or to the people of Ad, or other nations that he gives us the examples in the Quran. Because this nation not only disbelieves in Allah's messenger of the covenant and his message, but also they actually try and attempt to put Allah's messenger to death, just like the people of Thamud did, just like the people of Ad did, and just like so many other nations did. And Allah will punish this nation with a huge blow in front of all the world. So after they issue the judicial decree to kill him, they actually assign him a grave with the wicked. Again, this only happens in Muslim countries. For example, there is this specific cemetery that all the Muslims can go to. There's another cemetery that is assigned for those who are convicted of crimes such as corruption on earth or heresy. That's because they consider someone who is convicted of corruption on earth as enemy of Allah. That's why they believe these people have to be in a separate cemetery. Yet it was the Lord's will to make him contrite and cause him to become sick, grieved. So it says all his suffering is actually the will of Allah, the will of Yahweh, for him to go through this suffering. And verily, the Lord makes him a trespass. So basically, what does that mean? It means this is our red line. It's like you can't cross this red line. You can't trespass this red line. So the same way, Yahweh in this verse, Allah our Creator, is saying that his messenger covenant is a trespass, is a red line. You can't cross him. You can't touch him. Allah is saying that he's my red line. You can't do anything to him. And then right after that, Allah explains that not only they cannot kill him, but also he will see his offspring and prolong his day. So not only they cannot kill him, but Allah make him live a longer life than normal. He will live a long life. And the will of the Lord, the will of Yahweh will prosper in his hand. So not only they cannot kill him, but also he will live longer and he will succeed and prosper, and Allah's will be done by him. Because of his efforts, because of his deeds, he who, Allah's promised messenger servant of the covenant, he will see and be satisfied. By his knowledge, my righteous servant will bring about righteousness for many, and he will bear their iniquities. It means that this person, this messenger of God, will cause many people to learn the truth about our Creator, about his words, about his books. and causes them and helps them to become righteous, to become God-fearing, to become truly monotheists. And he also will bear their iniquities because he will be a priest of the Lord, because he will be a messenger of our God. Just like Aaron, he will atone for their iniquities, for their sins. Therefore, I will give him a portion among the great, and he will divide the spoils with the strong. So again, this is the latter end. Because he poured out his life unto death, because he actually goes up to death. They take him to kill him. They take him to execute him. They take him to stone him to death. I don't know how that is going to happen, but they take him, and when at the very last moment that they think they're going to kill him, they even assign his grave and would like to put him to death. And I assure you, the ruler of this country are going to be clerics. They're going to be religious people, just like Iran, just like Afghanistan. Okay, let's do a very quick summary. So, messenger, servant of the covenant, MSOC. There is nothing special, attractive, or majestic about him. Do not expect someone with a halo around his head or anything. So he's someone who is very normal, and in fact, people will say, hey, there is nothing special about this guy. Why should we even listen to him? Why should we even look at him? So people will despise, hate, and reject him as a madman, as a crazy man, as a person who is insane. In fact, he will be arrested, he will be imprisoned and sentenced to death as a wicked man, as an enemy of Allah. So this must be a country, a nation that is ruled by clerics, by religious scholars, by religious people. It cannot be America, it cannot be England, it cannot be France, it cannot be China, it cannot be Russia. It has to be a country that is ruled by clerics, by religious people. And what country could that be right now? It's either Iran or Afghanistan, or maybe another country that I am not aware of. Please feel free to comment if you know another country that is ruled by clerics. And these clerics will issue a decree about him, a religious decree, that this man is a wicked man. It's an enemy of Allah. It's a corrupter in earth, spreading heresy. He has to be put to death. He has to be killed. And his tomb, his grave, has to be in a separate place because he does not deserve to be in the same cemetery as Muslims, as believers, according to them. However, Allah or Yahweh, our creator, will save him from certain death, from definite death, before they can execute that judgment, before they can actually kill him. And those clerics, those rulers in that country will be severely punished by a stroke, which is the same word that Quran uses. Quran uses the word sayha, but in the book of Isaiah, the word stroke is used. Basically, it's a huge blow. It's a very strong blow that Allah hits them with. So this happens before they can put him to death. This happens in front of the entire world. So everyone will see it. You will see it. We are all going to see it in our screens. This is going to be the arm of the Lord being revealed for the first time in 1400 years. This has not happened. Allah is going to make bare his arm again in front of the world, show his power, his glory, and is going to directly intervene to save his promised messenger of the covenant out of that certain death, out of that judgment. And not only that, he's going to destroy the clerical regime and government in that country. And this is when the tides turn and people, particularly in the Muslim world, will start taking him seriously. And it is at this point that he assumes leadership and forms the community of the true believers. And rest assured that he will live a very long life And that's why the change in appearance, because he will be so old towards the end of his life. And he will teach many people righteousness. He will cause them to be guided. And he will atone for their sins. And he will intercede for them. And at this point, when he assumes leadership, at this point, this is where the rest of the story happens. This is where the confrontation with the world powers, with the United Nations start. Because at this point, majority of the believers will actually gather together from around the world in the Muslim world. Now they know that this is Allah's messenger of the covenant, that the Quran promises. So they're going to believe in him. And they're going to believe in Allah, their creator, and his messenger. He's going to say that let the community of the true believers be. And it is at this point that the nations, the world powers, the United Nations will not want to do that. They're like, no, we are not going to do that. And this is where you're going to head into those huge collisions and confrontation. And it is at this point that the Messiah, Jesus Christ, son of Maryam, will descend. In the next few videos, I'm going to share with you the story of Jesus Christ and how he will return. And we're going to look at that. So you're going to know that from the book of Isaiah, which verses, which chapters are actually talking about the return of the Messiah and how he will return. Peace and blessings to all of you.